Hello and welcome to Lord of the Board. My name is Sam Smith, and today we are going to be learning the brand new game from Brotherwise Games, Dragon Prince Battlecharged. Now, Dragon Prince is described as a fast-paced battle game, and essentially you're going to be controlling miniatures, and you're going to have a deck of cards that corresponds with those miniatures, and you're going to be trying to outwit your opponents, knocking them out a certain number of times in order to collect victory coins, and the first player to the amount of victory coins that you need to win will win the game. So today we're going to be teaching how to actually play the game, and I'm really excited to dive right in. This game excites me a lot. It does a lot of interesting things, and it's very, very easy to teach. And I just want to give a special shout out to Brotherwise Games for sponsoring this video. They are the creators of Overboss, which is actually another game that I really love that they did. They also did Boss Monster. They also did Call to Adventure. They are doing some amazing things out in the board game industry. Definitely check the link down below. I've got a link to their website. You can check out all of their games. But this is one of their newer games, and I'm really, really excited to share it with you. Now for setup, it depends on how many players you have, but in a 2-player game, each player is going to choose 2 heroes. In a 3-player game, one player is going to choose 2 heroes and the other players will each get their own hero. And then in a 4-player game, every player will get their own hero. But today we're going to be setting up for a 2-player game, so I'm super excited because I'm choosing Rayla, the Moon Shadow Assassin, and Callum, the Sky Mage. Sounds pretty freaking awesome. When all heroes are chosen, divide into team colors. There will always be a purple team and a red team in the game. Then grab each deck associated with the 2 characters that you chose, and then shuffle those 2 decks together. Once every player has picked their hero cards, then we're going to have to figure out what map we are going to be playing on. There is a couple of awesome different maps within the game, but you're going to go ahead and each team will just roll 1 dice. Whoever gets the higher roll gets to pick the map and the starting zone. So essentially, if you look at the map here, you'll actually see that there's going to be 2 stars that appear on the map. And the 4 squares surrounding that star are going to be a starting zone. So the team that actually rolled the higher number, they'll choose their starting side and they'll place their miniatures surrounding their star. Then the other team, they'll start around the star opposite to them, and they actually get to decide which team goes first. Then once they take their first turn, play will continue clockwise until a team collects the designated amount of victory coins. For a 2 through 4 player game, go ahead and grab 5 victory coins because it's the first to 3 victory coins that will actually win. Now, how exactly do you gain victory coins throughout Dragon Prince Battlecharged? It's super simple. Essentially, you just have to bring a hero's card to 0 health, and your team will gain a victory coin for that. So if you knock out opponents 3 times, you're going to win the game. So you want to be the first team to do so. Now let's look really quickly at some of these hero cards and just some of the characteristics that you're going to want to look out for. Now I'm looking at Rayla here. You'll see right here, this is going to be your energy value. You'll want to go ahead and put an energy dice there. You'll grab 6 hearts and put them on top of her hero card here. This right here shows Rayla's basic movement, which in a little bit we'll explain how that works. And this down here shows the basic attack. Right here you've got range, and here you've got the actual attack value. Then right in the middle of the card, this will show you how you can actually gain more energy as this particular hero. At the end of your turn, if Rayla has no adjacent enemies, you will charge 2 energy. Now that is really, really important because that's a huge part of how the game operates, is how you're actually going to be able to balance charging your energy and taking out the opposing team. But now that we've kind of given you a preface of how things work and how the game is set up, let's go ahead and jump into some of the details. Now on your turn, if you're playing a 2-player game, you're actually going to be controlling 2 heroes. You can actually play your hero's actions in any order. And essentially each hero gets a limited amount of actions that they can do. They can all do 1 attack, 1 move, and as many technique, ongoing, and react cards as they want. Now moving is actually really easy in this game. You can always do a basic move, and that's going to be the value on your hero card. You can either move diagonally, and you can also move orthogonally, but you're going to want to watch out for the white bordered spaces. You cannot move through those, as well as the red bordered spaces. You cannot move through those as well. And another thing to note is that you can move through your allies and your opponents at any given time, but you cannot end your movement on any of those player pieces. Now let's say I didn't want to do a basic move. Let's say I had a really cool card that allowed me to do a move. These are called move cards. You can play these instead of using your basic move. And this one's really awesome because I'll just spend 1 energy and I'll get to actually jump. Now jumping allows you to move across any terrain, meaning the red bordered areas, but it will not allow you to jump over walls. Nobody can jump walls through this game. Nobody. So that's pretty much movement. You can either do the basic movement or play a move card. Now let's move on to an attack. Basic attacks are also found on a player's card, and above you'll see the range of that attack, and below you'll see the attack value. So you want to make sure that your opponent is in range first off, and the way that you're going to do that is you're going to look at the center of your square, and you're going to draw a straight line to the target, and if it can hit the center of the target square, it can hit the opponent. Now this can go through opposing pieces, this can also go over terrain, but it cannot go through walls. Or you'll use an attack card, which works the exact same way, except that they usually cost energy, and they also usually have a special effect tagged along with them. Now let's take a little bit of a deeper look into these cards really quickly. Since in a 2-player game you're going to be having a mixture of both of your hero cards in your hand, there are some things to note. Right here on the card will sometimes have an affinity, which will basically mean that a hero card has to have that affinity in order to use it. So for example, Callum, since he is a Sky Mage, he has this symbol in the top right corner, so that means that the symbol would have to match in order for that player to use that card. Sometimes this will actually have a character's portrait replaced with it, meaning that only that specific character can actually use that card. But if it's left blank, that means that you can use that card with any of your heroes. Now, like I said, each hero gets 1 attack, 1 move, but they can get as many technique cards, ongoing cards, and react cards as they want during their turn. But in order to explain that, I'm actually going to start using one of my favorite characters, Ezrein, as an example to explain how these work. Now, technique cards have a lot of powerful effects. Sometimes they'll help you gain energy, gain health. They'll sometimes even be able to deal damage to your opponent without necessarily attacking them. So they can be very, very helpful. And a lot of these cards will actually give a lot of unique flavor to each different character. So techniques are played just like any card. If they have an energy value, you'll pay that energy value to play it, but you can play as many of these as you want. Now, if a technique has an hourglass in the top right corner, this is called a timed ability, and this will not activate until the next turn. So you want to keep it face up on the side of the board until it activates, and then once it is actually resolved its effect, then you can go ahead and discard it. And there is no limit to how many timed cards you can have in play at any given time. Now we've also got ongoing cards, and Ezrein is a master of these. Essentially, you play them like any other card, you'll pay the energy cost, but these are actually going to stay face up next to your character portrait, and these will continue to exist and give their special abilities until they are discarded by either a card effect or discarded by using their ability in the case of bait. And then we've got react cards. These can be played on your opponent's turn because they are typically played in response to getting attacked. They can oftentimes give abilities or maybe even stop the attack by adding a block. And this is actually a concept of the game that we really need to discuss now, is that when you are making an attack, it doesn't actually hit until there is a full resolution of how many blocks or boosts have been played with your react cards. So when a player makes an attack, the opponent can play a react card, which could have a block symbol. Then if the attacker is able to play a boost, the attack will still go through, but this can continue on and on. As long as these boosts and shields match, the hit will still get through. If there is ever less boosts than shields, then there is a miss and the attack does not deal any damage to the opponent. And this can happen anytime an attack is made. So you'll see that boosts can be very, very handy in making sure that you can actually get an attack through to your opponent, forcing them to either play some shields in order to stop the attack or just let it hit. Now, once you have played all the cards you want to and activated all the actions that you needed to as both of your heroes, you can then discard down any cards from your hand. This is a good way to cycle out the cards that you know you don't need currently. Then you can draw right back up to your hand limit. Now, like I said, you're going to be using all of these actions for one specific reason. You are trying to knock out your opponent's heroes by bringing their health to 0. Once you do that, their miniature will be knocked over, but they can no longer be targeted for any attacks while knocked down. However, while they are knocked down, they can still count for adjacent ally abilities of other cards, just so that you know. At the start of their next turn, they will stand up and they will gain all of their starting health back up. Then they may play that turn as completely normal. The first team to achieve 3 knockouts, gaining 3 victory coins, is going to be the winner. In the back of the rulebook, there is advanced rules that you can use in order to make the game a little bit more complicated. I would definitely recommend playing the game a couple times before adding these in, but they're not too hard to understand once you get the core concepts of the game down. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I really hope that this gave you an idea of how to play this game. And if you haven't seen my content before, I would totally appreciate it if you would like the video, as well as consider subscribing in order to see more content in the future. But now I'm going to try and cast a spell, and we'll see if it works, but I'm not sure if it will. Historia Viventum. Now, if you see strategy guides that popped up around here, that means the spell worked. If you do not see them, come around at some point and you'll probably see them. But yeah, let's go ahead and drop the beat.